right, welcome. Welcome back, everyone. What's up, David? Nice talking to you yesterday, brother. Pura vida. Welcome back, guys. Happy Wednesday. Happy FOMC day. Margin, Sasha. How you guys doing? Dino. The Fade Doctor. What's up, all the familiar faces? Emmy, how you doing? El Checo. Checo's back. Cadillac. He's back. Welcome back, everyone. Good afternoon from Germany. All right. Doesn't look like there's too much out there today. Not going to lie. It looks like it might be, one of those mature cool-off days that you might want to take it easy. For now, at least. That's what it feels to me. I'm not seeing too much out there. I'm not seeing anything that's super clear. And with FOMC at 2 o'clock, I think it does make sense that, that's sort of what the market is providing. It's not really providing much clarity before this event. So we'll obviously walk through it, talk about what is potential out there, what is some things that I'm looking at, but definitely a little bit careful today. We've had a fantastic month. We have not had a red day this entire month. And I don't want it, I don't want to have a red day off of stupidity, right? If I take a trade that I like and it doesn't work, so be it. But, when I don't like anything, and if that's my gut feeling, I don't see much, and it's also FOMC at 2 o'clock, it might be one of those days that we just be a tad bit cautious, right? A lot of the wins that we've had over the last 2 weeks have been very clear. It's been, we walked into this live stream and said, man, this looks great. There looks to be a lot of opportunity. And that's just not the way I feel today. So we'll see. We'll see. Every day is different. Markets can change on the drop of a dime. So let's just stay locked in and stay, aware of what's going on. Shaman, thank you, brother. Thanks for funding the coffee fund. I appreciate that. Jason, member for 3 months, learning so much from you. Let's get out there and crush this day, even if it's just watching. Yeah, totally, Jason. Even if it's just a day of sort of monitoring and getting in tune with what the market does, right? It's still important to watch, a day that you may not trade because it keeps you in tune with what the market is doing, which could result in a really nice trade, right? Maybe tomorrow or maybe Friday to end the week. So still very important to show up and to pay attention to what's going on. Always, always. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys being here. Hope you're enjoying the live streams. If you are, press that like button, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to switch to the other screen, and I hope that we don't get the same sound that we got yesterday, because that was very interesting. Let's see. Okay, I think we're good. I don't see it. I don't see the noise coming through. All right. So let's just jump right in today. Whoops, that was probably loud. Sorry about that. I just hit the mic with my hand. 7 days key levels. All right, nice. You won it. Very nice. All righty. Let's make it a day. Looks like a little bit of a gloomy day outside in Florida as well. Pretty shitty out, to be honest. Pretty shitty day. Maybe that's a sign. All right, so let's pull up the economic calendar. I got that pulled up right here. Economic calendar. Here we go. So you guys can see today, Not much before the 2 o'clock. Now, that something that's sort of interesting I just thought about. I will be a statistic here. I will add 1 to each one of these categories. So definitely some building permits going in for the new house, and it has started. So building permits, housing starts. Add 1 to the tick. Add 1 to the list. I am one of 1.37 million, I guess. But yeah, that's interesting. Let's see what that number's at. I mean, I don't really think that does anything for the markets, but we'll see. 8:30, housing starts, building permits. Later on today is the main event, and you guys know, for that, if those that have been around, that every minute before 2 o'clock today is just sort of an anticipatory move. It's not something that is important, right? If we go straight up before 2 o'clock, that doesn't mean we can't come straight back down at 2 o'clock, right? So everything before 2 o'clock today, to me, is just a trade. It's just a short-term trade. It would be a trade that you would want to exit before 2 o'clock, unless you want to guess on what happens here. I'm thinking the expectations is a rate cut. I think it's a very high probability of it. Let me just make sure I am correct on that assumption before I start talking out of my mouth. Percentage chance of rate cut. Yes, it's like 96 to 97%. They're saying that we'll get a 0.25%, 0.25 rate cut today. So that is expected. There's a small chance of a 50%, not 50%, a 0.5% rate cut. So that's expected, right? So if you get that 0.25% rate cut, that's what the market has already built in. It's already priced in. That's probably why the market has been up, right, for the last month, right? It's a expectation. The market, as a lot of you understand, maybe some don't, the market moves before the event, right? It's expecting that. And if we don't get a rate cut today, that's probably your bearish case. And I don't think that's probably not going to happen. There's a very high chance, and it's pretty accurate, right? If it's 97, 98%, if that's what the street is saying, then it's probably going to happen. If it doesn't, well, that's sort of the dark horse. And I don't really think you would expect the market to go up on a 0.25% rate cut, right? Because that is what has been priced in. So not really expected, and actually you can see it right here. The forecast is 4.25. The previous is 4.5, right? So this is the expectation, that we get a 0.25% rate cut, right? So if we get that, I don't think you're going to see much of a market move, to be honest. I'm very curious to see how the market reacts to a rate cut today, because a lot of it has been built into the market already. So, interesting. I'm not going to have any position through it. I don't know what's going to happen, right? This is something that I think a lot of you guys out there need to come to senses with. You need to throw your ego away, and you need to understand, if you don't know what to expect, why are you putting money on the line, right? And that's just, it's such a basic concept that, people just fail to control themselves, and they just feel like they have to put money on it because they can't think of anything besides the potential upside reward if they're right, right? You're so blinded by the upside reward if you're right that you don't think about what if you're wrong. And if you don't know what's going to happen, then there's a very high possibility of you being wrong, right? So I have no idea what's going to happen today. Don't ask me. I have no idea. No one knows. Anyone that knows, that says they know, is just guessing. I mean, no one knows the future, guys. If we knew the future, I wouldn't be here. I would be sitting on a 100-foot yacht in the Mediterranean, sipping probably a dirty martini at 8 o'clock in the morning with you-know-what around me, right? A couple of those around me. You get the picture, right? So, let's just see what happens, right? Let's let it be, and let's trade after it, right? Very easy. So 2 o'clock today, 2:30. Let's see what happens. Should be fun to watch. Tomorrow, unemployment claims, and that ends our week. All right? All right. S&P 500. Let's jump into it. Press that like button. Subscribe to the channel. And here, that's a great idea. Now we're talking. That's right. Now we're talking. All right. So, yeah, I wish I was there. Good morning, everyone. Let's do it. So, today, right, the key thing for me, the key thing that I realized about today is that we did what we talked about yesterday in the live stream about the potential loss in momentum move. We lost Monday's highs, right? So that is important, right? We are not holding that Monday high. We did not turn the Monday highs into support. We never even had a chance of holding it, right? I mean, if you go to the 1 minute time frame yesterday off the open, there was never even a sign of potential life at that level, right? And actually, probably the best trade of the day was looking for that downside move below it. So it did provide that, nice 20-point downside on the ES. And so it did pretty much what we expected. I wasn't interested in this downside. As I said, I didn't trade it. I thought it was going to be too tight of a range, and I think it was still very tight of a range. And the price action was okay. You had to catch it at the exact right spot, right? You had to catch it here to get, a nice move to the downside. If you didn't catch it here and you tried to short here, then you got pretty much chopped alive the entire day, right? From here to here, you did get, a downside of around 7 points, but you had to sit through this. And so it really just wasn't worth it, once again, to short unless you were in at the exact breakdown point. So it was okay, right? But the key thing to understand is that we are back under 66.81, 66.80. So that's important to me, right? I'm cautious now of longs back into that level because that could become a rejection point. This could now become a failure point. And what would that create? That would create a little bit of a head and shoulder formation, right? So I have to be careful now of this 66.80 turning into a rejection point. That is now very, very clear. Now, the next thing I want to point out, my friends, is that this right here, guys, is after hours action, right? That is all after hours action. So pretty much all of yesterday printed underneath Monday's highs, right? This is all of Monday's action. This is 99% of yesterday's action. And so we had majority of, all the action above 66.80 was in the after hours. And so that's low volume, right? Really not that strong. And that's sort of interesting, right? Leaving behind anyone that was long in the after hours pretty much underwater now. So a little bit cautious of that. To me, I would now need to see a very strong reclaim of Monday's highs and a very strong hold above that to expect the market to go higher again today. So that is definitely something that I will look for. Do we get back above Monday's highs? That is going to be crucial. If we don't, then we'll have to watch some of these downside demand levels. The first level that we're starting to consolidate in is our Thursday to Friday high zone, which we had in our charts yesterday, between our 66.56 to 66.62. You can see that we're starting to trade within that zone right now, so that'll be very interesting. Do we find a bounce out of this level? Do we fail below this level today? This is going to be crucial. Underneath this Thursday high, underneath this little overnight high, and underneath that Friday high, right? If we start failing below this today, then we're moving down into these lows, which are 66.40 to 66.32. That would be your next downside move. Underneath that, you have low volume into 66.20. That's your CPI high. And below that, you're back to 6,600. So we're going to have to see how do the buyers step up at these next downside demand levels. This is going to be very important today. What do I expect for today? Here's what I expect. Okay, if someone said, hey, Desi, tell me what you expect, gun to your head, you got to give me an answer. My expectation is a chop fest between this zone before 2 o'clock. Pretty simply put. I'm going to assume that you don't lose this major demand and you don't break above Monday's highs. And you pretty much just get trapped within this channel all of yesterday's chop fest, and you're going to see the same thing today before 2 o'clock. And then hopefully at 2 o'clock, you can get some kind of a catalyst to either direction. That's what I would hope for. So I think there is a very high chance, like 90%, I would put it, 80%, that you have the same range of yesterday trade this morning, right? And you're just going to sort of stay balanced inside of this range. I think that's a very realistic expectation. And if that is your expectation, then why are you interested in even trading this? I would simply wait for 2 o'clock and see if we can break this high or if we can break this low. If we can break this high or this low, you will get more action. So let's see. SPY, pretty much the same thesis here, my friends. You can see Monday's highs. You failed it yesterday. You rejected it all day, right? This 661 to 660.73, major highs, and now this is definitely a failure point, right? So if you trade up into this level today, you need to be careful of rejections coming in again, the same way they did here and the same way they did here. So now you are back under Monday's highs, and that's different, right? It's a little bit of a change. It's a little bit of a failure, and it's something to pay attention to. It's not, oh, this is the top of the market, but it's definitely not, oh, I'm just going to long into this high and not care about it. This could be a trap, right? Another failure move. And anyone that's trying to long right into these highs again could be sort of smacked in the face at this level. So it's very much something to pay attention to. Downside demand, 659, which is Friday's highs, and then this Thursday high area around 658.48. It's actually down a little bit lower. I'm going to drag it down to that exact high here, which is the exact high. Let me get the exact high for you. The exact high is 658.33. That's the exact high from Thursday, and I think that should be watched on watch to make sure you're cautious of shorting into this exact high right here, this high here, and then right at that wick low from the after hours. Was that a legit wick? Let me see. Yeah, we traded down there. Yep, we traded down there. Okay. So if you're looking at this ES, right, we can see potential demand zone. Watch the shorts inside there. Be careful of shorting into that demand zone. That is previous highs. If you break under this Thursday high and this wick low from the after hours, I would expect a move down into these lows at 657. Under this low right here, I would expect a quick downside move to that 655 level. To get upside moves, you need to see a break above 661. Yeah, it's very possible head and shoulder. It is, right? This is how a head and shoulder forms. You have a left shoulder, you have a breakout that fails to hold, and then you turn that previous rejection point right here into rejections again. So it is definitely possible, right? So that's why you're now cautious. You're not, guys, something that people need to realize about trading, right? Just because it's showing this does not mean you just go out there today and have nothing but a bearish bias and you just short the market and you're like, buying SPY puts because you're like, oh, the head and shoulder is going to play out. I know it's going to play out. I'm going to just buy SPY puts and hope that at 2 o'clock it's going to go lower. That's such an amateur mindset, okay? You got to get out of that mindset. I was in that mindset in my trading career. Everyone was in that, is either in it or was in it in their trading career. You can't keep doing that, okay? Just because this is a head and shoulder does not mean that you short the market. What this means is that you are now cautious of rejections at these highs. You're also cautious still of downside demand holding, right? And so now you're just watching to see what happens at those points to create a reaction and to create a trade idea. It's not so much just guessing the future because there's a head and shoulder, okay? You need to pay attention to that. All right, NASDAQ futures. So we talked about that that Monday high, which this is wrong. I don't know why I have this here. Hold on. Okay, I adjusted it to this high. That's why. This is actually, these highs right here. I'm going to leave it there because you do see those rejections at that point. But it's right in that general area. 24,563 is the rejections from yesterday, which is very close to that Monday high right here. I'm actually going to put a level there. So right there. Hold on, bear with me. Price level. That's actually the Monday high. I'm actually going to do this for a moment. No, I'm going to leave it as it is. So you have this zone right here. That's Monday high. That's yesterday's rejection. I'm actually going to 24,556. So I'm just going to do this so you can see it. All right. That is the level that's rejecting. See that right there? So you have this high from Monday, and look at how that rejected yesterday. Perfectly, right? That exact Monday high right here. See this? Monday high. Look at yesterday's price action. Right there. Bam. You broke, you retested, you rejected. That is a beautiful downside formation yesterday, right? Break, retest, rejection, retest, rejection, retest, rejection. That is 3 rejections now at this Monday high. So that is important to pay attention to, right? You don't just disregard that. You are now failing under that Monday high, and that is something to be paying attention to. So if you trade up into that, you need to be cautious failures again. If you get above this, then you could potentially see the market reclaim and then rip higher back towards this rejection, which is around that 609, 616, right? So that is a very clear failure point now on the NASDAQ futures that you need to be paying attention to. And you don't want to just be mindlessly long into that, because that could be another failure, right? And then you're going to say the market is rigged when you're long here and this rejects again, right? Market's rigged. Of course it is. No, it's not. It's just a rejection point that's extremely clear on the charts. There's no questions asked. That is a spot to be cautious, right? So below, you have these lows, right? At Monday's lows, 24,472. Look at that right there. That's this exact low, and look at what's trying to hold on. That exact spot. If you fail 472 today, you are going to go straight down, okay? This is the area of the most interesting short action. This is about a 72-point zone, and this is the most interesting short area of the day, right here. If you can get a move below 472, you should get very nice action down to 400. Why? Because of this right here. See that? That is very much an opportunity. So I'm just going to set an alert there. If we get underneath that level, I will be aware of it, and I'll see if there's a trade that sets up. I will not trade today with aggression if you are sitting in this channel. I mean, this is just clear as day, chop fest coming type of trade channel here today. FOMC 2 o'clock, all day chop fest, and here we go again. Same channel, starting the day within it. There's no excuses to be chopped alive in this channel today. This would be nothing but lack of control, no self-control. That would be the answer, right? When you see everyone whining about them blowing up their accounts today, you know exactly why, right? Because they were trading inside of a zone that chopped all day on Monday, chopped all day yesterday, likely to chop all day today prior to 2 o'clock, right? It's very self-explanatory. It's just simply about self-control at this point. If you can get outside of this range, right, outside of this Monday high, right here, if you can get it, where's my alerts? I can't put an alert there? Oh, it's because I'm clicking on the drawing. There we go. I still can't put an alert. What the hell's going on? Am I blind? Buy custom, sell custom, style, drawings, studies. Huh. Were they just not... Now I can't set alerts anymore? Okay, that's cool. What am I missing? Am I missing something? Oh, it's under studies? No, it's not. Quick study, add study. Okay, cool. I can tell you why I can't set alert now. Anyways, I guess TOS just took away the alerts. 24,472, 24,563. Highs, lows, don't get screwed. Yeah, I'm right clicking. It's not there. Let's see if it's just on the NASDAQ. Yep, it's just on the futures. Okay. I mean, I don't know. What hell is that all about? Oh, there it is. Just had to change the ticker and come back to it. Little reset. Just a little reset. Create alert. There we go. Okay, above that, create alert. Below that, boom. Oh, I did a below. Create alert. Above, and create alert below. Okay. I guess we're trading below 473. I mean, this thing's all messed up now. Create alert 24,474. Trading at or below 4. I'm just going to put below. All right, moving on. QQQ. That's just fucked up. 592, 592, 592. Right? That's the level that you need to break today. If you can get above 592, you go higher. That's what you watch today. Right here, right here, right here. Very clear on the Qs today. Very clear on the Qs today. Look how clear that is. 592, 592, 592, 592. That is 4 rejections at that exact level. If you can get a break and retest hold, you are going higher. It's the contract. Is that why? Yeah, it's not on the right contract, is it? That's what I thought about that for a second, and I think that is why. Yep, because it's using the old contract. Can I just do NQ, the continuous? Below 24,472. There we go. Now we're good. Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that, fellas. All right. So back to the QQQ. 592 and 589.68. Very clear. This low, you break that, thin structure down to 588. You break above this, potential break and retest long. You trade within this, chop fest. Chop fest, chop fest, chop fest. Welcome to the chop fest between this zone. There is no reason to trade within that. Unless you are, right, if you want to trade this channel with some futures contracts, sure. If you're looking for 0DT SPX to run for you and you start entering positions inside this channel, that's where you get screwed. Okay, so have the right mindset. That's a very clear channel on the market that you're probably going to want to stay within before 2 o'clock. Be aware of it. All right? Very clear stuff in terms of where to be cautious and where to be patient today on the market. All right? And this is why I'm telling you that I wasn't that excited to trade today, because of what I'm seeing here. All right? I need the market to do something. I need something to happen to then put on the risk. Without that, it might be a little bit lackluster. IWM, really not much. I mean, it's just sort of failing now underneath these previous highs, which is a little concerning to me. You see these previous highs here at 239? Just sort of failing below that now. So watch 239 IWM. That's going to be the spot. SMH, a little bit of downside this morning because of the NVIDIA news that China is actually trying to move away from NVIDIA, which is sort of interesting. You got your downside move in the pre-market again. You are holding 305, so there's a little bit of a, flag forming here potentially, but you definitely need to hold 305. If you break below 305, then I think you are going to see some slippage on the SMH today. Under 305, I think you would trade back down to the 300 or the 303, and then under 303 back to 300. Okay. All right. Tesla. Let's jump into some equities. If you guys could, press that like button for me. Subscribe to the channel. Let's go over to Tesla. So, Tesla's still maintaining our major demand levels. Very interesting, right? It has not given up these major demand lows. So, 412 was one of our spots yesterday. We have that 414.50 2021 high. And we have this 417 level. That's this level from Monday of this week, from the pre-market. So you can see, right, 417, 414.50, 412. This entire zone is doing its, it's battling. The bulls are trying to hold it, right? It's continuing to try to hold in this zone here. Can it maintain? Can it consolidate? Can it find new strength within this area? That's going to be massively important. If you break under this 412, then I think you will see a downside move, right? Underneath this Tuesday low, underneath yesterday's lows, I think you would get a move back down to your 402.67 again. So this is a little bit of a thin area here, and I would be cautious of, a breakdown under 412 creating a strong downside move back to the weekly highs. Those are, remember, those 3 weekly highs from 2021. So we're still above those, which is not bad. I mean, it's Tesla's potentially creating a little 3-bar play, right? Where you sort of pull back, this little 3-bar here. Maybe the next candle is the breakout candle. So watching what the next day, right? Today's very important for Tesla. You have 2 days of consolidation after this big move. You held those weekly lows. You're trying to hold this area. Do you need another, pullback to this weekly low on the daily? Do you need to fill this gap on the daily, right? So maybe we put this little gap fill level. This would be the gap fill. Actually at the close, not there, right there at the close. So 396 is gap fill level, right? So that is a potentially interesting spot as well. That would be your gap fill, 396, right here. So, yeah, I mean, I personally think that a pullback to that gap fill and to this weekly demand would be the best opportunity, right? To, sort of get everyone that's sort of just being a pig on this right now, sort of get them out, get this to drop, get everyone panicked out of Tesla, and then reload that thing at the gap fill level. That really would be the, for me, one of the better trades to see. I would prefer that than just continuing to chase this into these highs that are starting to show some rejections. 425, 430, definitely seeing some failures up here. Wouldn't mind a little flush out, man. That would be, give me the flush out day. Get everyone on X saying that Tesla's a piece of shit, right? Get everyone panicked out of the position. Get the bears to say, I told you Tesla's going down, right? Get everyone flipped on the opposite side of the trade and get them back down to this gap fill. And then when everyone's looking for downside, you start peeking around for that upside bounce. That's what I would prefer, right? That just to me screams way more opportunity, right? And so that's, that would be great. Do we get that? I don't know. But we shall see. I definitely know that I'm not going to be, you're basically scratching for, or you're trading for, what's the term? You're trying to get inches here, right? You're fighting for scraps, right? That's pretty much what you're doing now. You're fighting for scraps in this little channel, and I just don't think it's worth it. You don't want to trade in the scraps for Tesla. You want those big moves, and so for now, I sort of cooled off on Tesla. I sold all my positions yesterday, took my profits on the swing trades from these lows yesterday, took my profits pretty much at the open there, sold my trade from last Friday into this push as well, and then just sort of, went back to cash. And so now I can reassess and see what happens. NVIDIA, downside move on the China news, nasty little rejection at 176. That's actually a very clear rejection. So, yeah, I mean, this is sort of interesting, right? Because that's exactly where you did not want NVIDIA to reject. You did not want to see NVIDIA fail these previous lows and turn them into a rejection point. That is not what you wanted at all. And that's what it did. So cautious now. You are back at demand. You are back at the major demand, which is right in here. And you can see you're holding. We'll see. I mean, this is a wait and see for me. If you break 171, then I would expect further downside, personally. So I'm going to... My neck is killing me, man. I think I slept wrong yesterday. Underneath 171. I would look for the potential further downside. AMD, not being long AMD until it breaks 164.50 has been the right call. This has looked interesting to me for about a week now on this inverse head and shoulder move. But when you have an inverse head and shoulder, you need the neckline to break. It's the same concept for a head and shoulder, right? Everyone looks at the head and shoulder, right? And they want to short on the second, up at this shoulder high. Now, what you need on an inverse head and shoulder or a head and shoulder is you need the neckline to break, right? This is the neckline. And that's what you need to break to short the move. You need a break and retest below the neckline, right? And so what happens to some people is they'll short the head and shoulder because they know that, I read Google Images one day and that's what Google Images said is a good short position, right? And they'll short here, and then what ends up happening is it continues to hold the neckline, and then eventually it breaks out, right? And so this is the same thing for AMD. You have left shoulder, right shoulder. Here's your neckline, right? You need this to break out to really, really consider this a bullish reversal. You have your left shoulder, your head, your right shoulder, and your neckline. So I don't really love being long here. I like being long after the break and retest of the major rejection point and the neckline. So that mindset has saved me probably thousands of dollars this week, right? Instead of buying in AMD long here and continuing to get chopped up, I'm just simply waiting for this alert to go off. I mean, this alert has been here for a week. So let's see, no rush. Let it happen. TSM, I still have my alert at the gap fill. Hasn't hit yet. Waiting on it. Qualcomm starting to get some heat today, actually. And Qualcomm is breaking above a very key level, guys. So I don't know if Qualcomm's about to make a move, but something sneaky over here on good old Qualcomm. These lows, these highs, this is a huge high. I mean, go to the weekly chart. This is a really important spot for Qualcomm. If it can clear out this 163, 164 area, you might get something, right? You have sort of a low volume move right here. Maybe up back to 176 is possible. What you need to see is a hold over this 163, 164 today, and you're actually starting to see it right now. So sort of interesting. Now, could I see Qualcomm doing this? Yes, I could. And so you need to see this maintained today. ARM, interesting. 155, still rejecting. Have that set as an alert. Going to keep an eye on that a little bit today. And that's really it for the semiconductors. What's Broadcom up to? I sort of skipped Broadcom today. Yeah, Broadcom back at this major demand. Okay. I'll create an alert to see if it breaks below that. I think the upside's starting to get a little bit heavy on Broadcom. So, and to me, I think maybe a deeper pullback is something you want to see. So, yeah, I'm going to just sort of set alerts at these demand levels here and see what happens at them. The 354, 357 zone. All right, that's that. Let's get into some other names. Meta. Meta is really... Meta did what we wanted, first of all. This was one of our top watches yesterday, and it did it. We were looking for a break and retest above these highs. That's exactly what Meta did. It broke, it retested, and it bounced, which is very nice. Now, the problem here on Meta, guys, is you are up into a huge 4-hour supply. Look at this 4-hour level. Look at these highs. Look at these highs. Look at where you're trading. This is the high from the last earnings. Okay, here's your earnings. This is the high from the last earnings. You're trading right in it. 780 to 785, that is definitely an area that you could potentially reject here. Okay, so for me, I have alerts set over 785 to see if that can move higher. I would also be interested in a retest of this level, right, if we come back down to it. So watching both sides of that. Amazon, not interesting today. You're stuck between 236 and 232. I have alerts on either side. Google, sort of rejecting this yesterday rejection point, previous day high, rejecting previous day high, rejecting this Monday high. So you're starting to fail there. I'm still waiting for this Google pullback move. It's going to happen. Google cannot continue to move higher like this. We'll see. I can't front run it because anyone that, here it is, right? This is a fantastic example. Who remembers us talking about the, the thought process behind shorting Google before it breaks down a key level, right? We were talking about, last week, 2 weeks ago, talking about how, the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. So how many people you think were shorting Google on this first red day looking for this to gap fill, right? How many people you think took that short looking for this to gap fill? And we said, well, why not just wait for it to break this low and then look for the gap fill? Because guess what happens? This could go to, like we said, 260 before it goes back to 215. This could go to 300 before it goes back to 215. There's no timing in terms of when gaps get filled. And so Anyone that's been trying to take a Google gap fill for the last like 2 weeks has been absolutely bent over backwards. And so it's not worth looking for that until something actually starts to occur. And so for me, this would be the trade. This would be where I would start to look for Google to the downside, personally. I would look for Google to the downside underneath these Monday's lows. If you break under these Monday's lows, you are absolutely going to get a pullback to this 242. This is a no-brainer short, in my opinion, right here. Right here. Under these lows, into these highs. I love this area right there. So, definitely watching that. We'll see when that happens, but I think it should be something you keep on your charts. Netflix, yeah, really strong recovery off the 1200. Nice hold again at these lows, 1200, starting to come back through this low volume area. It's quite nice. However, man, it's a personal problem. I have a really hard time trading Netflix. It's just a very sketchy stock. So maybe that's my own trust issues, but yeah, Netflix is a tough one. But you can see it's creating some really clean stuff right now. Right now, Netflix is holding over these highs, these highs, these highs, and these highs, right? Look at that hold, above 1209, 1211. If you can break above this high right here at 1220, and if you can get above the daily 20 today, right? If you can reclaim that daily 20, I think you can move easily to 1230 and possibly even up into 1250, right? You might be able to make back this entire move. 1230 would be my first target. 1250 would be the full U-shaped recovery. We'll see. Let's see how this builds today. I'll keep an eye on it. I'll see if I can find something that's worth my time. Coinbase still rejecting 330. Not interesting there. I think you have to continue to watch CRWV here. It keeps rejecting 125, but it keeps also holding 115. So I would be watching that. 125, big high there. Circle, I think you continue to watch this. It's been finding strength. Over 140 is interesting. Palantir, definitely an interesting pullback, guys. We are still holding our retest level. We've talked about this every day. Previous high, lows, look what it's doing again. This is a good pullback. This is a very heavy supply. We need to see a pullback. Does it hold here? I would maybe prefer even a drop to 166 personally. But I am definitely interested to see how Palantir continues to hold these pullbacks. Hood was one of our top watches yesterday off of 114. Right here. 114. Look at that hold. Really nice hold. Hold, hold. Also that 112, 111 was the key demand. Inverse head and shoulder. Right? Sort of interesting. Where's the neckline? 118. So if you get above 118, I think Hood could go after this little, structure that just happened here. Low, lower low, higher low, right? Here, here, here. If you can get above 118, that's a watch. That's a watch. All right, guys. I think that's going to be it. Really nothing on Oracle today. Failed at 320. There's still a gap fill potential on Oracle, actually. It's actually a pretty nice rejection. Let's mark out these lows here. 291.75. I'm going to put an alert there. Just in case Oracle wants to do a little bit more gap fill, huh? That could be sort of interesting. What's APP been up to? Jeez, man. This stock is just gone. It's just, I don't even know how you trade this. It's just sort of straight up. Man, what a stock. Oklo, some watches there today. Uber, not a bad pullback to that previous all-time high. Something to watch there. S&P 500, let's get a quick peek into what we're doing. We're holding that demand low, which is very clear. QQQ holding that demand low. NASDAQ holding that 24,472 demand low. SPY holding that 569 demand low. Inside of the channel, FOMC at 2 o'clock. All right, guys, I hope you have a fantastic trading day. If you want to trade live with me every day, actually, not every day, I take that back. If you want to trade live with me on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, check out the Discord link down below. Wednesday, we have ADR, who's another trader, great trader in our group that takes over the Wednesday session. Wednesday, I trade live with the mentorship group, and that is what we will be doing today. So if you want to apply for the mentorship group, that is down in the description below. It says apply. It's free to apply. You can put in your info and answer some pretty basic trading questions for us to get to know you a little bit. And that's about it. Or just press the like button and subscribe to the channel. That's all I ask. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate the support. And I will see you tomorrow. Peace out.